I'm Connor Rold, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. Today we're going to do one that's going to be, I think, a popular one, hopefully a favorite of many of yours. That is Christopher Nolan. I say that only because Christopher Nolan probably has the most loyal, and intense fan base on the internet. You look at all of his movies, all of his IMDb scores are really high despite the critics, and that's because of the fans and the users really just going in there and giving it 10. And because there's a lot of definitely Nolan fanboy-esque, as much as you would say a DC or a Marvel fanboy-esque in a sense, because of course Nolan did the amazing Dark Knight trilogy. That being said, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Connor Rold. What we do here is sort of explain why a director is great, so what makes him great and what makes him successful, and then my favorite movie of his, and then what I consider his best movie. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. In this case, these do not. I'll be getting to that a little bit later. Let's talk a little bit about why Christopher Nolan is such a great director and why so many people like his movies. And the number one thing I think of when I think of him, and I also think of similar to Scorsese, is not necessarily they have this Wes Anderson, Tim Burton-esque style, but they have an incredible ability and grasp on storytelling. Christopher Nolan is an excellent storyteller. He can make sort of ideas that seem complicated and really boil them down for mass appeal. But that being said, he doesn't treat the audience with disrespect. That's one of my favorite things with Christopher Nolan, is that he creates this really sort of interesting idea or this interesting concept, whether it be Inception or Interstellar, or just interesting premise with like something like The Prestige, and he asks the audience to be smart, and he really respects the audience to understand what they're going through. Of course, he does make it boiled down to be easy. Sometimes he's successful with that in terms of Inception. I think he nails it completely. Even Prestige, or a little bit less successful with something like Interstellar. You want to see Inception multiple times because you're interested, because the first time you don't get every single thing, but you get most of it, and it's very thrilling for you and you're excited, and so you want to rewatch it with the information that you now know, and sort of say, oh, this means this, and oh, this makes sense because of this, and sort of pick on little clues and almost Easter eggs. And that's why Christopher Nolan's movies, I think, have garnered such a loyal fan base, and because they do so well at the blockbuster. And that's really interesting point about Christopher Nolan, is that he is a blockbuster director through and throughout for most of his career now, but he's not a traditional blockbuster director. In a sort of world with reboots and remakes and sort of every cinematic universe, there's a King Kong cinematic universe. He shows a lot of restraint to not do that, and he shows how much power he has, because he'll put out Dunkirk this summer and it'll make a lot of money. Same way Interstellar went out and it'll make a lot of money, because he's really elevating these blockbusters to sort of what they used to be. He's very much a purist and an authenticist, where he's making a $100 million war movie or a space opera, but they're making their money back, and that's incredibly hard for studios to sort of grapple with in terms of new ideas. That's why a lot of the sort of movie stars don't exist anymore, and really the main draw, I think, is directors. People will go see Dunkirk because it's interesting, it looks interesting, of course, but it's from the director of The Dark Knight and Interstellar and Inception, and he's really garnered this really fantastic name for himself, where people really love these movies, and they'll definitely just go see it. That's why I say a loyal fan base, because for Christopher Nolan, unlike someone like, you could even argue a Wes Anderson or a Steven Spielberg, he's made a lot of movies, and every single one of them, in my opinion, has been at least great, even better than great, I think. People are saying, well, we started to fall off with Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, not as great as people would like them to be, but still, I still think they're fantastic movies nonetheless, and very minimum great, all the way up to masterpieces, which I consider for a few of his movies, actually. I think, I have all of them here, I'm sure, looking at them. I'd say, three of them are masterpieces. You could even argue 4 of them are masterpieces. I guess that would be Inception, Insomnia, and The Dark Knight, and then maybe even Memento, you could argue. But that is a little sort of abstract. And going back to Memento, I remember the very first time we sort of saw him, people were thinking, this is a trick or just a gimmick, like he's making a movie backwards, that's like just a gimmick, whatever, but he really was able to tell a story backwards. That just shows his ability of being a great storyteller, is he's able to make sense of a story, a clear story with complex themes backwards, and he can do it with varying issues of time and dreams within a dreams with Inception, and really morally ambiguous crime dramas like Insomnia. he really has this great, incredible backlog. And I know that's actually a movie, The Prestige is a movie that a lot of people look to and say, oh, it's the most underrated movie, because I know a lot of people who are just fans of the Dark Knight trilogy start looking into Christopher Nolan's other movies, such as Inception and such as The Prestige, and they're like, wow, this really guy is not just a great Batman director, he's just a great director. I'm a really big fan of his, and that really comes down, I think, to the storytelling. He's got great visuals with amazing cinematography from Wally Pfister and now Hoyt van Hoytema, the most recent cinematographer. And he has great screenplays that he writes or his brother writes, but he does a great job, and I think that has to do with a little bit of the screenplay of the entire story and the plot and making things work and making things make sense. One of my favorite movies of last year was Arrival, and that's one of the reasons I loved it, because I could watch it again and it still makes sense. It's such a tight and unique and solid script. And I think that's what Christopher Nolan really is just great doing. Also working with the studio system, he works really well within there, where he tells them, I need this, and they're able to provide it because they know that they will make their money back. And it's an interesting dichotomy where he's really influencing blockbusters to become these big, grandiose things with original ideas and one-offs and not these cinematography first. He's really off on his side, and I really respect him for doing that and really sort of pushing for that. Another thing that makes him, I said, authentical or practicality is sort of his practical sets and his hate for CGI, and he'll spend that money if it makes sense and really sort of services the story. For example, the Inception, the hallway scene, he actually built this giant rig that sort of spun and with zero gravity, and sort of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the other stunt actor there has to sort of learn the movements and stuff. Very interesting. Another thing that he's similar to other directors and similar to other auteurs or other writer-directors is he has sort of a cast that he loves. His cinematographer was Wally Pfister for all the movies except for his last movie, Interstellar, which was Hoyt van Hoytema, because Wally Pfister went and became a director. I'm not sure when he's going to come back or if he will ever come back, because he made Transcendence, and that wasn't really a good movie, but he did it nonetheless. And also some actors he works with. He has Michael Caine in almost every single one of his movies. Tom Hardy's another one. Cillian Murphy, Christian Bale, of course, with the three Dark Knight and then The Prestige. So it really has a great job to work with actors and really bring the performances out of them, even though he does have very much recurring actors. Yeah, okay. And then, so aside from the complex themes, I really do think he has emotional characters. You feel for the protagonist. You feel for what they're doing and their actions, and you always want to sympathize with them, even though sometimes they're murky. He's able to create the Batman series, and he's created a great Batman. In my opinion, the best Batman. I think Christian Bale is the best Batman in terms of actor, and Christopher Nolan is the best to create that character, and really sympathetic character. You have Batman, who is a very serious character, and to make him very sympathetic, I thought was an incredible job done by Christopher Nolan. And, of course, Christian Bale to create that emotional resonance to him. Of course, he did have 3 movies to do so, but nonetheless, he was able to create that. And he's able to really create great performances out of everybody. I think Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in Inception, and even Marion Cotillard in that, is incredible. Al Pacino and Robin Williams in Insomnia, incredible back and forth. Christian Bale and, of course, Heath Ledger from The Joker in The Dark Knight. The best superhero movie of all time. He's incredible at doing that. He doesn't necessarily follow genres, but he does sort of follow different concepts. All Memento and Prestige and Interstellar and Inception, they'll have sort of interesting concepts and interesting things that sort of make it very much movie-esque, because they're not grounded in real life. They're always sort of superhero grounded in real life, or going to space grounded in real life, or magic grounded in real life. It's very much sort of grounding these very abstract sort of themes, and he does it in such a great way. I think he really is a fantastic director. And then back to the authenticity, he shoots only on film, so he'll use IMAX cameras that are like millions of dollars and will just crash them for the sake of a shot. He's very much based on authenticity and really appreciates the spectacle of the cinema, and he really wants people to go to the cinema and movie theaters, and he really gives people an excuse to by making such fantastic movies. Yeah, so now let's go into what I think the best movie is of his, and that is Inception. Now, what I love about Inception, and really why I think this is best, not necessarily my favorite, but I mean an incredible movie, of course, his best is the ensemble of characters, and really you can, so let's go with the ensemble of characters. So you have Leonardo DiCaprio, a great job, sort of the leader, Cobb, then you have Ellen Page's character, Tom Hardy, Ken Watanabe, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, of course, really this great sort of cast of amazing actors, and they all deliver stellar performances, stellar, that really bring the movie up. A lot of great movies have great ensembles, but you can have a great protagonist, like one of my favorite movies of all time, Taxi Driver, and that can carry the film. But for these ones, like these ensemble pieces, they can really bring up the film by the performances and having that great storytelling. And really, that's what I love about this one is I think Inception is probably his most complicated theme, and he explains it the best. So that's an incredible job to do that. The dream within the dreams. It's part sort of psychological thriller, part action movie, part drama. There's comedic parts in it. It's just an incredible thrill ride. I think everybody will love this movie, even though it's a little somewhat complicated. I think it sort of rides that right line. For example, my mom, she saw Memento, and she was like, oh, "Sorry, Connor, I can't follow that." But then she sees Inception, she's like, "Whoa!" It sort of messed with my mind, but I sort of got it. I was following along enough where now I want to see it again. That's a problem with me. Something like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's hailed as this amazing movie, the greatest movie of all time, arguably, and I'm like, I don't really get it because I watched it for the first time. It doesn't intrigue me at all. I watched it for a second, nothing. Third, nothing. I watched the movie 3 times and I still don't get why everyone loves this movie so much. But I would have watched it again and again, even if I watched it again and again because I was told to almost, because it was such a great movie. But for something like Inception, I watched it the first time, I was like, whoa, that's very weird, but I was intrigued. I enjoyed my time, so I want to watch it again. Same thing with Denis Villeneuve's Enemy. I was intrigued by the first time, and I wanted to go back and sort of check and do that stuff and sort of connect the dots. And I think Christopher Nolan does a great job with that, where you can comprehend most of the movie, but if you really want that extra experience, you're intrigued enough to go back into multiple viewings, which is what. And really, when I think of Christopher Nolan, I think of the word, or Inception, sorry, I think of the word enthralling. It's an incredible thriller, great action movie. It's so great. And you have performances from Christopher Nolan, from Tom Hardy and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Leonardo DiCaprio at the height of their powers. Really just an incredible movie that I'm just really a big fan of. And just, he's a great job at creating an interesting world and then executes it so masterfully. Inception really is a fantastic movie through and throughout. Now, it's not my favorite, so now let's go to my favorite, which is Insomnia. And now this is his most underrated movie, I think, by far. I know a lot of people say, oh, Prestige, because they see The Dark Knight Rises, then for some reason they go to The Prestige as the next underrated movie. But Insomnia is the most underrated movie of all time. This movie is so incredible. One of my favorite picks. Oh, I've seen this entire show. I watched it again, and I watched it a lot actually, and this is just a fantastic movie. It's a great job of a cat and mouse game. You have great performances, some of the best from Al Pacino and Robin Williams and Hilary Swank. For me, it's like Al Pacino has Godfather 2, and then he has Insomnia. Robin Williams has Good Will Hunting or Good Morning Vietnam, and then he has Insomnia. So you have like Godfather 2 and Good Will Hunting. These so many people love these movies. These are some of people's favorite movies of all time, but then they don't know Insomnia. It's like they're fans of the actors and the movies, but then they forget about Insomnia. This is such a hidden gem. If you haven't seen it, it's an incredible movie. What I love about it so much is the great cop drama between the cop and the criminal, the hero and the villain, except is the hero really the hero, and is the villain really the hero? And what I mean by that is just an incredible, morally ambiguous character by Al Pacino, and there's great character arcs from Al Pacino's character, from Hilary Swank, sort of the good cop, sort of standing back, and Robin Williams as his sort of descent into downfall, or his descent into goodness, to try and frame Al Pacino. There's incredibly intense, sort of thriller-esque action scenes in the fog. They do that a great job, because in the movie, essentially, if you don't know what the premise is, Al Pacino's character throughout the movie gets insomnia, which means you can't sleep, because the sun, he's in Alaska, and the sun rises during night when normally he sleeps. So his schedule's all mixed up. He can't sleep, and as less and less sleep he gets, the less clear his mind gets, almost like it's blogged up by fogginess, and he becomes less and less morally ambiguous, and he sort of stray away from his character choices, and you really want to dissect. He really is an enigma of a character, and that's what I love about this, is because the themes, the idea isn't that complex, like in Inception or Memento, but it's really the characters that are complex, and they're the enigmas, and they're the ones that you really want to dissect and really get into and say, why are they this way? What's happened? What's the reason they want to choose this way? It's the most straightforward of all his movies, but it's the most emotionally complex movie out of all of them. And I think also this is maybe the best cop movie / detective movie of all time. One of my favorites for sure. Maybe not necessarily the best, but I would say rivals something like Chinatown, where it has that noir aspect to it, but it doesn't have that necessarily stylish visuals or sort of 40s feel to it. But something like Chinatown is a script that's sort of looked at as the best script of all time, or in terms of the structure, it's incredibly well done. Well, I think Insomnia is like that. It's the best paced movie I've seen of all time. It just goes from beep, 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 and the end of it. And there's no slow parts, there's no dull moments. Everything's there for a reason, to connect to a story or connect to another point. You're never like bored, you're always thrilled on the edge of your seat, but there's times to relax and then just to hit you back with another thrilling thing to happen. It's a great balance. The character arcs are incredible. You really see the change in the characters, but not necessarily change in terms of their jobs, but more change in terms of their perception, because for a lot of them, they can't sleep. You have Hilary Swank, who's a regular, who has a clear mind, or you have like Al Pacino, who's sort of like the one in the middle, who doesn't know what's going on, and Robin Williams, who's sort of the smart sort of villain play. Which the boat scene in this movie, between Robin Williams and Al Pacino, is an incredible tour de force performance between the two actors at the top of their height of their powers. I think it's an iconic scene. It should be incredible battle of wits that I've seen in no other movie. Something like a Minority Report maybe, but really, the battle of wits between the two is just really, really great. Incredibly written dialogue, where it makes sense, every little thing, and really just the layers that it has between all these ideas. I love how just the idea is explored. And actually, I'm going to. And I guess I think about it, it's really just a morally ambiguous character that I'm drawn to, like attached to, or like an Inside Llewyn Davis. This character, you don't really know if he's good or bad, or you want to root for him, but it's hard to in a sense, and it's very interesting. It's a great movie. I mean, just a great solid movie that I would recommend to anybody. And then I have a quote here from Scott Mance from Access Hollywood that I would sum up, because he sums it up great in this one quote here. It says, "Not only is the film an incredible, riveting, and intensely paced game of cat and mouse, but the psychological thriller continually ups the ante until you start to wonder who's the cat and who's the mouse." And that's great said, because you want to say there's a hero and a villain, but it really isn't. It's like, who's the hero, who's the villain? You start to question yourself. You question the ending of it. It's not as complex as other movies, but it's an incredible story. I think it's the best, most well-told story. And Inception is incredibly too, but in terms of Insomnia, that's just a personal favorite of mine, because incredible performances, incredible action. I love the thriller genre, and this is one of the best I've ever seen. So anyways, guys, like the video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what your favorite Christopher Nolan movie is, maybe what you think the best is, what makes him so great, maybe something that I left out. Just to sum up the incredible storytelling ability of Christopher Nolan with the practical effects and really allowing the audience to rise to his level, to understand these concepts instead of babying it down and watering it down and treating the audience as stupid. For all those reasons, that's why Christopher Nolan is the master of controlled chaos. I'm Connor Old, and until next time, stay tuned.